Good morning, Mesh. Catch us on Twitter as @Mashalaba Speaks. IG, it will be the man Yonela. Catch us on Facebook as Yonela Mashalaba. Good morning, Mash, the After Joke Thoughts. My name is Uyonela Mashalaba, aka the iceberg that never broke. Don't forget to catch us on Twitter as Mashalaba Speak. On IG, we are the man Yonela. Facebook, Uyonela Mashalaba. Today, I have with me our Nelson Mandela University President, President Terror, as we call you, the terrible Terror. The last time you and I met was when you guys actually were sending students away because of the pandemic. You had to send students away. Do you remember that time?
Yeah, it's crazy. Eh?
Yeah, a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
How many meetings so far?
Right, it's been crazy. But I think firstly I must just greet the viewers and everyone. But I think it's correct. I think the last time we met was somewhere around March, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was after a special ECS meeting that agreed to suspend all academic activity, and it eventually lead us into an early recess. Since then, that recess has been a non-ending one, but it eventually ended. But we're still on lockdown, as many would know. So it's been countless of online meetings. Everyone is trying to put their heads together in terms of where to from here.
Okay, there's been a lot of strategies that have been coming from all sectors and corners of our country and the institution in terms of how to kind of rescue the academic year, or what you call an unending holiday. And the SRC itself has come up with its own COVID response statement. Can you take us through that statement?
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with you. A lot of heads have been pounding themselves in terms of arriving at a particular strategy of how to best salvage the situation and sort of rescue the academic year 2020. But I think what I want to put out there is probably one of the reasons why we have not arrived at a logical conclusion or at a point where there's consensus is probably because each of the different stakeholders probably have a particular destination that they want to arrive at. So that's probably been the most difficult thing in it, is that maybe not all of us want to arrive at a particular point, Mash. So it's been beyond just rescuing the academic year for the sake of students completing the year, those who are waiting graduations to graduate, those who want to access the system to access the system. I think the different stakeholders have different boxes to tick. We have different points where we probably want to arrive. So we thought that because of this sense of occasion, and I think because of what we've seen, that not everyone is in it for the same reasons, we thought that, look, as an SRC, let us sit down, let us pen down what we think is best to sort of rescue the academic year for our constituency, and ensure that throughout all of the politics that are at play there, we at least try to make our mark in ensuring that this entire period does not prove to be the most hostile and gruesome period for students. So indeed, there's a document that's been out, it's been circulating. It's a multifolded document that we composed as an SRC. It answers pretty much holistically of where we are as an institution, number one, and where we are at the level of the sector, and what are some of the best responses that I think can rescue the situation for students. So it reflects on the work that we've done so far as responding as a university. It then also leaves further proposals of what we think can still be achieved and what would bring about best solutions to the situation.
Okay, about solutions, a lot of solutions or rather ideas, some political, some not, have been coming on the forefront. And I remember at some point the South African Student Congress even called for a boycott of online learning. Would you take us through in terms of why as a university, we decided on the two pathways that we've actually. What are the two pathways, and why did we go along with these two pathways, both as an institution and from a perspective of being a student representative? Why are we opting for these two pathways? What do they mean to the students?
Look, it's always been our long-standing position as an SRC1, as well as, and I think majority, I can confidently say that majority of SRCs out there, of course with the guidance of the Union of Students, is we've always encouraged a multi-staggered approach in terms of rescuing the academic year. We've understood that the issue of rescuing the academic year cannot solely be responded to through online learning, because the issue of success in achieving your learning outcomes has never been solely based on you attending class and writing your exams alone, which I think effectively is what is insinuated by distance learning. There's this misconception that you sitting in front of a laptop or sitting in front of an iPad or sitting in front of your cell phone and being given learning material and then later on being given an online assessment, then you are then able to achieve your learning outcomes. This has always been the fundamental understanding that we've had. And our response to then that was that a multi-staggered approach is always the best way in terms of rescuing the situation. What do we mean when we speak about a multi-staggered approach? Is to say that those who have the ability and can succeed as far as distance learning is concerned must be able to participate in that learning so that we minimize the demand for students to return to campus. But I think our biggest objective as an SRC, and I think along with many SRCs in the country, is that primarily one of our loudest calls is that students must be allowed back to campus. And for which reasons, there are many. The issue of overcrowded homes, the issue of unconducive learning environments, the issue of connectivity. If you look at the ICASA 2019 fourth quarter report, it gives us a very clear picture of where we are as far as connection, as far as the Eastern Cape is concerned. From your MSG networks, your LTEs, your 4Gs and 3Gs, etc. It paints a very clear picture of where we are as a province as far as connectivity is concerned. We furthermore call upon the university as well as other stakeholders to say, pay attention to the very close reports that have been submitted to the National Council Command as far as the Minister of Police is concerned. It's an open secret, Mash. There's been an increase as far as domestic violence cases are concerned. Now, we can't begin to behave as if those statistics don't directly respond possibly to where our students reside and even in their own households. So that is another issue. Child-headed households. The issue of abusive households. Because we tend to look at the issue of abuse sometimes as a fact of a class. No, abuse is class neutral. There are those students who might have all the money in the world to access online learning, have their laptops, have their data, modems, everything. But some of them come from these toxic backgrounds and they can't cope as far as achieving their learning outcomes is concerned. So that is one of the reasons why we said multi-staggered approach must be one that we take so that we're able to ensure that those who are able to participate in online learning successfully. And here's the key to it, is that it's pointless to have people participating distance learning if it's going to be an unsuccessful task, a futile one. So we then said multi-staggered approach must say then pathway 1 students must be able to access online learning so that we begin to cut down on the demand for students to return to campus. Number 2, pathway 2, what does that entail? Pathway 2 must begin to entail the vulnerable students, Mash. Those ones who have challenges in adapting to computer literacy. Those who come from these vulnerable circumstances of abusive backgrounds, etc., etc., so that we're able to bring these students to campus, we're then able to start off initiatives such as flipped classrooms, which are classrooms that are cut down to scale so that we're able to adhere to social distancing protocols, hygiene protocols, etc., while students, all of them participating in learning in one way or another. One of the further things is to say that in ensuring that no student is left behind through this whole process, these things must happen simultaneously. So that has been some of the calls that we've made, and this is why we've then said multiple pathways are probably the best way in terms of students achieving their learning outcomes on this.
Okay, I hear, President, that there's been a call for at least some students to return from homes, like you've said, in cases of abusive and non-conducive environments for learning. But someone out there is asking themselves, why then did we send the students away at the first place, number one? And number two, why are we bringing back students when the cases of COVID or the coronavirus are increasing in the country? Those are the questions that the viewers are probably asking themselves. Why did we then send away students? And number two, the cases of the virus are increasing. Why would we advocate for people to travel or come back to institution? What would have changed?
Look, Mash, the entire scenario has been more than 12 rounds of boxing, if I can put it like that. It's been a never-ending fight. To say that, and there's this mischievous narrative that is being pushed around, to say that you either rescue the academic year or you save lives. As if the whole country currently is led by the health ministry alone and the other sectors are at a stagnant stage, which is not the case. All other sectors are functioning, but government still has a priority of rescuing lives. So what does it mean? Do we sit and fold our hands and say students must stay at home because we're trying to save lives? We can't be. If the sector is moving towards the direction of rescuing the academic year, then our responsibility as an SRC and student leadership is to say that our own students must not be left behind from this process. So why students were sent away, again, there's been this call, Nash, and I think I'll openly and as controversially say it. And I think I'm multi-figured, and you solely rely on medical practitioners as your only source of advice, it becomes problematic, because you are then left with where we are now. The medical fraternity will tell you that it's risky to have students at their residences because of the numbers, etc., etc. Send them home, because this thing is there are more cases of COVID-19 in metros, etc., etc. And where students are from, their rural areas, etc., and the comfort of their homes, they are much safer. Medical opinion. They go home. The medical prediction is proven to be futile because COVID-19 cases increase. They're now everywhere. The sector comes back into the picture and says that, no, we need to rescue the academic year because universities need to continue getting their grants, students need to graduate and go into the market. Those who are still in matric need to access the system next year. Medical practitioners move aside. They say, hey, we said, Tina, they must stay at home because we're trying to save lives. Meanwhile, the entire sector in the economy is continuing to be operational and want to achieve their outcomes. That's the way we are. There's a reason why students are at home, because we tend to over-rely on those who come from the medical side of things to give us an opinion of a medical opinion to issues that are multifolded. Because now we're stuck with the case whereby the Department of Higher Education needs to save the academic year. And they can't successfully do it because not everyone, we live in a very unequal society. Not everyone can successfully participate in distance learning and achieve their learning outcomes. So what do? There's another mischievous narrative. They're going to say that government will never have enough resources to assist everyone, and therefore we must continue with the limited resources that we have so that we rescue the academic year. What does then that mean? It means that you'll have a diluted strategy for those who come from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, and those who come from a privileged position will continue to be able to function normally while these ones are at a back foot.
Okay. So, President, let's put a scenario where we are in fact able to save the academic year, and we are ready as an institution. How ready would we say the institution is to save the year in terms of the type of support that they've been receiving from the public? Let's say we are all ready as students, all 27,000 of us, 28,000, we are ready to commence with Pathway 1. Is the university receiving any, have you heard anything in terms of assistance from corporate in terms of making sure that all the students are able to receive, or as many students as possible are able to receive laptops, data? What's the response there in terms of the public assisting the institutions or the Nelson Mandela University to continue the academic calendar?
Look, Mash, I'm quite confident, and again, it's no strategy and no solution is perfect. They all have their flaws, but I'm quite confident that the university has at a paper value of it, pinned down quite a in-depth and multifolded strategy in terms of how we can best rescue the academic year. As things stands, we've submitted as the SRC. There have been constant engagements to say that we must begin to respond, sourcing all sorts of assistance that we can get in ensuring that we're able to dish out our services to students as best as possible. But I think as we stand, as far as the strategy of the university is concerned, there's definitely an appetite from the university in whenever government makes the call to begin to at a prioritized scale return students to campus, because we must begin to roll out that strategy whenever government allows us to do so. It must be strictly on a vulnerability basis, and we must prioritize, particularly those students who've been showcasing these challenges, etc. And what I mean when I say actually about this is because you would say that the institution had predicted where we are going. If you'd remember, this year was the first year where we started rolling out the issue of academic coaches. It's the first year we started rolling out the system of tracking and monitoring students' progress from their entry level into university as far as first year is concerned, so that we can begin to monitor which student is coping and adapting in which way in terms of university, and what further assistance is that particular student needing. So you would say that the approach was that of predicting sort of the predicament that we would find ourselves in. So those are the students that we must prioritize when making the call to government to say that we understand that the return of students to campus will not mean business as usual, but can we then have a focal point of these students who are struggling? I mean, you can imagine, Mash, you have students who come from your lower quintile schools, quintile 1 to 3. Some of them, they've only interacted with the basic computer for less than a month. Schools opened in February. In March, we were closing down because of the pandemic. Now, these students have been struggling with end-user computing, the basics, Microsoft, PowerPoint, Excel concepts. You're expecting the very same students to move the entire academic program, the entire syllabus onto online learning. The students have been doing second and their third year in end-user computing struggling. It's one of the reasons why the SRC, before we were forced to close down because of the pandemic, rolled out a program of extra classes in end-user computing, because we've seen that the students who are failing the double RFCs, your end-user computing modules, because of the background that has been a challenge in exposing them to such conditions. So these are the same students who are expected to move the entire syllabus and the entire academic year onto online learning. So you're bound to have a challenge on them. Those are the students that you must prioritize in bringing back to campus whenever government gives us the call. So it's not been an issue of an irresponsible call that has been made by SRCs and student leaders to say that let's bring students back to campus. We understand very well that the cases of COVID-19 have increased. We've understood very well that we're approaching our peak season, by the way. And if we're going to delay it now, you can imagine. If we're going to delay the return of students now, figures show that we might be peaking by September as a country in this thing, because we're approaching our winter season. Why delay the inevitable? I mean, universities are ready. We have the necessary resource and infrastructure to ensure that we set up facilities. If government can come to the university and say that we need assistance from the university, clearly there's capacity for the university to produce and assist government. Why not start the same principle at home? Okay. Our own university is producing sanitizers, personal protective equipment. There are rumors that they will be providing beds, which I think we've put to bed that it's not necessarily as true as the media puts it, but there are residences that have been previously accredited that do not house students. this year, those beds can be used in the event where there are students who are showing symptoms who have tested positive, or I need to isolate until they develop those symptoms so that we can have clear results. They can be isolated in those areas. And the rest of the students who have tested negative can go to the comfort of their rooms, self-isolate, continue to participate in the academic program.
Okay, President, we've spoken on the issues of students who are unable to necessarily participate in Pathway 1, and hence that falls part of your call to have some of the students returned to the university. I just want to understand, in terms of the institution interpreting its own social responsibility in terms of providing laptops for those particular students, is it really realistic to make that announcement of wanting to support 28,000 students, obviously following suit on universities such as the Wits University, which in my opinion has less than 10% of the type of students that we have, you know. So you might find that at Nelson Mandela University, close to 40% of our students would be in need of that assistance, when in Wits it would probably be less than 10%. First of all, do we have the capacity to provide for those students in real unit terms? And secondly, are we receiving any assistance from the corporates in terms of providing these devices to our students?
Look, Mash, I would not want to get myself into trouble in terms of corporate discussion, but I'm very confident at the information that we have at our disposal. The figures that were brought to us as an SRC were that just over 30% of our students have no connectivity whatsoever. You know, they've never connected to NMMU Wi-Fi. They've never connected to Eduro. Those were the figures that we got. And from there, the university has been extremely ambitious and daring. The university went into deals with network providers, the major network providers, and that process has started, rolling out data to each and every single registered university to assist them, whether they'll be doing Pathway 1 or Pathway 2. Because the issue of Pathway 1 or Pathway 2, the biggest responsibility that we have is to catch up to the academic year. And therefore, you can't say because you're going to be doing Pathway 2, then we're not going to give you data. No, it's never been the case. Students must continue to have access to learning material. They must continue to catch up with their academics. That is the principle behind it. Furthermore, the university has been in talks with Dell. You'd understand that Dell has been the company that has been, since 2018, when we started the very ambitious call of one student, one laptop, that has been providing laptops to first years. Again, they're on board. We're going to be rolling out laptops to students in need of laptops. That process has started. Students have begun applying for those laptops. I want to disperse those laptops to students in need of laptops.
Okay. We all are aware that this period has put much psychological stress on everyone, including people who have never had a history of psychological difficulties. How are we intending to modify our strategies to make sure that we are able to reach those students that were firstly already attending counseling, and possibly how are we able to detect new students because we're moving to online learning? What other tools are we using to access our students and to make sure that they get the psychological support and counseling that they might need?
Funny thing, Mash, this is one of the things that I've been pestering the university, because I'm extremely passionate and it's quite close to heart about it. Since the lockdown period, I think between the 30th of April till the 29th the 30th of March and the 29th of April, we've looked at nearly doubling our numbers, because we've started a process of moving student counseling and career development to online. And this rolling out of data, I think, will go a long way as well. We've reached out to the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Learning and Teaching to say that we must begin to capacitate our counselors to ensure that they're able to offer their service online. This includes Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, telephonic. SMS system, website online. And one of our ambitious causes in SRC is that this service must begin to be offered 24 hours. That's another call. And if technology as well as this current pandemic then provides us an opportunity to move to such sectors, then we must begin to aggressively as well as quite passionately call for the 24-hour service of this. And that's what we're doing. We're saying that the university must begin to look at offering this service as a 24-hour service. Furthermore, part of the document that was submitted to the university is a call there as part of our recommendations further to the work that has been done. We're saying that the university must establish a tracking unit from the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor that will be spearheaded by student counselling. The data is there, Mash. If you look at the type of appeals that we receive, both at the level of FMCs, both at the level of financial aid appeals, it shows you how deep down some of the challenges students go through. So we have the necessary data. Student counseling has records of our students. We are calling for the university to say that establish a tracking team, let's headhunt these students who've been showing history of abuse, who've been showing history of gender-based violence cases, who've been reporting cases of sexual assault, etc., from their own homes. Let us begin to establish a tracking unit. These are the kind of students that we need to bring back into safe havens. Because, well, remember, beyond rescuing the academic year, universities, particularly this university named after Nelson Mandela, has a particular social responsibility, charged by history to be a safe haven to the most vulnerable. That's why res managers struggle when it comes to the end of the year to get students to go home. Because home, for some of our students, is not really the best place to be, And during this lockdown, we must not forget that as well, And we must take into account as well when we move into distance learning and all of these other things that there are those students that whether you give them a laptop, a USB, data and everything, they might just not be able to continue with learning,
due to the environment.
They have the drunk father will come in, start assaulting and swearing at everyone, possibly even damage that laptop because they would somewhat, for one reason or another, see that laptop as the student flaunting or particularly refusing to do their household chores when they literally have a lecture on Zoom at that particular moment. So it must be things that we take into account, that these are the students that we need to headhunt. These are the students that we must offer safe havens to.
Okay. In terms of students that need support, I haven't heard much talk when it comes to addressing the needs of the students with disabilities at this point in time. And secondly, let's say we are able to complete this year and we able to have graduates. Are the type of students that we will produce as the Nelson Mandela University be able to cope post-COVID? Because I'm seeing a future where the economy is going to be very ruthless, where it's going to be survival of the fittest. With the type of assistance that we're providing with the students, are we able to give them a quality qualification that will help them come out as the best when it's required to? Will our students be fit to compete in the market?
Look, fortunately, Mash, it's been one of the biggest concerns as well that we've had, and we've voiced out this concern. It's in the document as well, and I think hopefully after this interview, students will continue to interact with that document and share it with each other. We've made that call. We said that the university is very silent on students with disabilities and special needs around this whole period of strategizing in terms of what is the best way of rescuing the academic year. And these are the students that we need to prioritize. The vulnerable, the needy are the students that we need to look into. And we've said the university must begin to work closely with the disability unit as far as pinpointing what are some of the challenges that our students have been facing and how do we then best cater for those students in these circumstances. Furthermore, we've made a very ambitious call, Mash, to say that there are those students who are not necessarily NSFAS funded, who have been strictly relying on the food nutrition program as well as the food bank of the university. So we've made the call as an SRC to say that those students must continue to receive assistance from the university during this period, be it through some amount being made available through Inteli or one way or another, but those students must continue to get assistance and aid from the university. And I think lastly, to respond to the issue of the volatile economy that I think will be approaching after this period, I think this period, Mash, if we're true and well in our conceptualization of what sort of student we want to produce in this period, has taught us that the student that leaves Nelson Mandela University must be the student that leads the way as far as bring about change. So in the volatile economy that we're going to be entering, we've long made the call to the university of the importance of the retention of its own timber. And I think it must be extended as well to the corporate world in the Eastern Cape, as well as the provincial government of the Eastern Cape. The importance of the retention of our own timber is proven to be extremely important in this period. Cuba today is a specialist country in the medicine fraternity because it has retained its own timber. They've ensured that the doctors that they produce do not go out there and practice in other countries, but they continue to ensure that Cuba becomes a superpower as far as medicine is concerned. And this is the exact same thing we need to do with our own graduates. Our graduates must be absorbed into the university. We must begin, Mesh, to slowly allow professors who are in their 80s and their 70s to go and spend time with their grandchildren. Producing enough academics, it's a very short, slow scale of academics that we are producing. We're not producing enough, but we're producing enough to retain our own timber. So they must stop being offered junior lecture posts. They must stop being offered student assistant posts. Masters and doctorate level candidates must be absorbed into our own system so that they can begin to take over from these old white professors.